as congratulations if you just bought a carton of eggs and a bag of vegetables this month. You officially belong to the new upper class, not Beverly Hills, but any neighborhood that still has a grocery store. America in 2025 has surprises so astonishing that people have to look twice to believe them. Egg prices have increased by more than 200% compared to 2020. A basic bag of groceries can cost more than a ticket to a music concert. And worse, it's not that you don't have enough money to eat, but that you have nowhere to buy from. More than 1,600 supermarkets nationwide have closed in the past 3 years. Many major cities like Detroit, New Orleans, or Oakland are now no different from urban food deserts full of people but lacking in vegetables. The question is no longer what to eat today, but where to eat. In this video, we will go through 10 American cities facing a grocery crisis where prices are skyrocketing, choices are dwindling, and people are gradually losing more than just a meal. As if you've ever seen your favorite store close down or empty shelves during your recent grocery trips, then this story might be about you. A small note is that the video reflects social reality based on public data, not intended to attack any event or organization. Starting from the first city, where the hot dog cart on the street has more customers than a supermarket. As in one of the largest and most historically rich cities in America, once the heart of the Midwest's industry and commerce, as you might think that buying a dozen eggs or a carton of milk wouldn't be too extravagant. But in the south side of Chicago, there are families who have to walk more than 3 miles just to buy a few basic items for dinner. In the past 2 years, Walmart, Whole Foods, and Aldi have simultaneously closed many stores in this area for businesses. This is a business decision, but for the local community here, especially the elderly and low-income individuals, it feels like being abandoned. A recent study shows that 63% of Southside residents live in what is called a food desert, areas with no fresh food stores within walking distance. As that means thousands of Americans right in the heart of one of the largest cities in the country cannot buy vegetables, meat, milk near their homes. A woman living in this area shared, "I am 60 years old living alone. I have to take 2 buses, traveling for nearly an hour and a half just to buy a little rice, milk, and bread." The narration is gentle, but makes everyone stop and reflect. But what's happening? The big chains say that high operating costs, difficult security, and low profits make it impossible for them to continue maintaining stores here. But the people do not leave. They still stay, still live, still need to eat every day. The sad thing is the market closes, but the people do not disappear. They are just pushed further away, and sometimes out of the boundaries of decent food choices. Is grocery shopping, once a basic necessity, slowly becoming a privilege, when buying clean vegetables requires a car, a credit card, and the luck to avoid dangerous neighborhoods? What kind of America are we living in? Are you seeing this happening in your own city? How far have you ever had to drive just to buy fresh food? Please share your story, because it might help someone else feel heard, as perhaps the solution does not lie in reclaiming everything, but in keeping the story from being forgotten. When enough people speak up, perhaps one day neighborhoods like Southside will have supermarkets again, will have hope again. But what is happening in Chicago is not the worst. There is a city rapidly developing in the desert, but there, even finding a bunch of fresh vegetables is a struggle. Phoenix, Arizona, a place of bright sunshine, but the meals are bland. Don't take your eyes off it. You'll want to know why. Phoenix is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. Thousands of people move here each month because of the warm climate, once affordable housing, and the opportunity for a fresh start in the sun-drenched desert. But the paradox is, the more it develops, as the hungrier Phoenix becomes for fresh food, local food stores, which once served the small community, have gradually disappeared over the past 5 years. Instead, there are food outlets selling stockpiled goods, near expiry items, and sometimes products of unclear origin. Although they are cheaper, buyers have to compromise on quality. According to a report from the BLS, egg increased by 41% and milk prices by 36% in just 3 years from 2021 to 2024. For many families on fixed incomes, that's a disparity that opens their entire budget. I am a veteran, retired 12 years ago, living on a pension. Now, as my main meals are breakfast cereal in the morning and a bowl of canned soup in the evening. Not because I like it, but because it's the only thing I can buy near home. It's hard to believe that this is the story from someone who once served the nation, but now has to fend for themselves amidst the heat and shelves full of things that don't really nourish anyone. But Phoenix is not a poor city. There are high-rise buildings, golf courses, and new residential areas springing up every month. The problem lies in the fact that the food infrastructure cannot keep up with the pace of urbanization. The large supermarkets are located far from the old residential centers. The new areas prioritize upscale restaurants, not clean vegetable stores. People without cars almost stuck. Many people now have to shop online, but are not sure if they will receive exactly what they need, and they might even lose money in the process or travel more than 10 miles to a large warehouse where you need a membership card and to buy in bulk to get a reasonable price. In the past, you could walk to the local market every morning, chat a bit, pick fresh apples, and choose green vegetables. Now, you have to watch for deals on the app, hoping the delivery driver won't be delayed because of the heat over 100 degrees F. What does a developed city mean if even a simple daily meal becomes a challenge? Are we building a modern future or just making the most basic things a luxury? Have you ever lived in a beautiful city but found it hard to live there? Or have you ever witnessed your loved ones having to eat cheap, nutritionally deficient food just because there are no supermarkets nearby? Please share your story in the comments. You are not alone in this. But if you think Phoenix is bad, wait until you find out what's happening in New York City, where a single egg can reach nearly $8, and the elderly have to choose between breakfast or buying medicine. The next story in New York City will make you gasp. New York, a global symbol of wealth, dynamism, and opportunity. But amidst the Broadway lights and the billion-dollar skyscrapers, there is a truth that surprises many. A dozen eggs in Manhattan can cost up to $8. An apple sometimes costs nearly $2. A loaf of bread costs over $5, and that's the cheapest kind. For tourists or affluent residents, it might just be the cost of convenience. But for those living on fixed pensions, Social Security, or low wages, each trip to the supermarket is a balancing act between an empty stomach and utility bills. According to statistics from the U.S. Department of Labor, food prices in the New York area have increased by more than 33% since 2020, the highest rate among major U.S. cities. And while prices have increased, choices have decreased, especially in areas that were once home to the elderly and low-income individuals. What happened in the end? Gentrification. Old residential areas are being renovated to serve the wealthy. Rental prices are rising. Taxes are increasing. The stores serving the working class cannot survive. They are being replaced by boutique stores, high-end organic food shops, or stores that only serve customers who order through an app. Everything seems to change too quickly. Less than a decade ago, in Brooklyn, as the Bronx or Queens, there were small local supermarkets run by locals. You could buy half a pound of potatoes, a few bananas, a little rice, affordable and close to home. But now, many residential areas no longer have real supermarkets. Only convenience stores remain, selling soft drinks, fast food, and processed foods. A difficult question arises when Wall Street is overflowing with money, why are the elderly in the Bronx eating dinner from discounted canned goods? Why does a city with all its fancy restaurants force the elderly to choose between buying medicine or buying eggs? Have you ever lived in New York? Do you still remember the small grocery stores on the corner where people knew each other's names? Please share in the comments, because perhaps those seemingly small memories are what help us see what is truly being lost. But if New York leaves you astonished, then the story in Birmingham, Alabama will leave you speechless, as a place that once seemed peaceful has now become a food desert. And for many elderly people, going to the supermarket is no longer a choice, but a lonely journey. Join me in the fourth city, where the disappearance of shops has taken the entire community with them. In a place once peaceful like Birmingham, Alabama, life used to revolve around very familiar things. A corner grocery store where the seller knew your name. For many elderly people here, the supermarket is not just a place to shop, but also the only place to see others, to talk, to be present. But in 2025, one by one, the stores are quietly leaving. Piggly Wiggly, Save a Lot, and smaller chains have closed in many Birmingham suburbs in recent years. No fanfare, no warning, just one day. The windows papered over. The sign was taken down and the parking lot is completely empty. According to the data, as more than 1.4 of residents in Birmingham currently live more than 1 mile away from any fresh food store. And for those who no longer drive or live alone, that means they cannot access healthy food. The cause of it all is not just economic. Many neighborhoods in Birmingham are considered not profitable enough to serve. Old infrastructure, low average incomes, and sparse population density make retail businesses reluctant to invest. Instead, there is a void both geographically and emotionally. And then, there is a question that is not easy to answer. Should going to the market be considered a part of community health care rather than just a consumer behavior? Because for many elderly people, a trip to the supermarket is not just about shopping, but also a way to feel that they still exist in this society. Have you ever lived in a neighborhood that was once lively but has become quiet over time? Share your story, because who knows, as someone might be feeling the same way as you and need empathy. But if Birmingham evokes emptiness, the next story in St. Louis, Missouri makes us think about the quality of what remains there. Food is not lacking, but it is cheap and toxic, and people eat to survive, not to thrive. Don't take your eyes off it. The next part will make you think. The shelves are fully stocked. Canned meat, instant noodles, carbonated drinks, salty snacks, all of them are readily available. But if you are looking for a bunch of fresh vegetables, a few clean apples, or a piece of meat without additives, it is almost a luxury. That is the reality in some low-income neighborhoods in St. Louis, Missouri, where food choices still exist. But they are choices that are making people gradually sick with each meal. According to statistics from Feeding America, 61% of residents in the poor districts of St. Louis currently buy food with a shelf life of less than 2 days and low nutritional value. People still buy food, but it's the kind that doctors and nutritionists would never recommend. But why is that distribution chains often prioritize products that are easy to preserve, have high profit margins, and can be sold in large quantities, such as canned goods and ultra-processed foods? Meanwhile, fresh fruits and vegetables spoil easily, are difficult to store, and hard to manage inventory, especially in areas that are not prioritized for investment. The result is what remains on the shelves is not food, but cheap survival solutions. In the past, St. Louis used to have local farmers' markets. The farmers brought vegetables straight from the farm to the street. Buyers get to eat fresh, have real conversations, and connect with the community. Now many neighborhoods only have gas stations selling frozen pizzas and packaged sandwiches. The atmosphere of family meals is gradually disappearing. Instead, there are the sounds of cans being opened, the smell of chemicals, and the feeling of fatigue after a meal that should have been healthy. And then a question arises, not only for St. Louis, but for all of America. Are we feeding the poor or poisoning them little by little? Is cheap food full of chemicals, sugar, and fat really a fair solution for those with the fewest choices? But if St. Louis makes you feel sympathetic, Fresno, as California, will leave you astonished because it is the agricultural center of America. Fruits and vegetables are abundantly grown in the fields. As yet, the people living among those fields cannot afford to buy a bunch of clean vegetables. Don't take your eyes off. The truth coming next is even more contradictory than you can imagine. Fresno, located right in the heart of California's Central Valley, known as the agricultural heart of America. Every year, this area produces millions of tons of grapes, oranges, onions, tomatoes, melons, almonds. Just a few minutes' drive to the suburbs, you will see endless fields stretching out. But the paradox is the very people here cannot eat what they grow. According to statistics from California food policy advocates, 48% of residents in Fresno cannot afford fresh, clean food weekly. Many families have to rely on canned goods, frozen vegetables, and starchy but nutritionally poor foods. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of tons of agricultural products from Fresno are packaged, sealed, and then shipped directly to major markets in New York, Chicago, and even exported abroad. So what causes this to happen? Could it be because the modern distribution system operates like a profit-optimizing machine? Agricultural products are purchased in bulk, sorted, and prioritized for transfer to large urban areas where consumers have a higher purchasing power, and production areas like Fresno have become places that are left behind with fewer choices and prices no longer suitable for the local people. In the past, Fresno had small farmers' markets where farmers sold directly to their neighbors. Vegetables are picked in the early morning, brought to the market at noon, and sold out by sunset. Now many neighborhoods have only a few convenience stores left, as mainly selling processed foods or imported goods. And then the question arises clearly and contemplatively, as are we feeding the whole country except ourselves? As why do people right in the heart of the National Agricultural Center have to rely on canned food? And if you believe that a place like Fresno deserves to eat what they produce, share this video and help spread the things that are gradually being forgotten. But what is happening in Fresno is just a small slice of a larger issue. In Atlanta, Georgia, as rapid urban development is forcing small supermarkets to withdraw and food is gradually becoming a luxury in the modern city. Don't miss the next part, because the story in Atlanta will show you the risk of a grocery crisis lurking behind the shiny buildings. As Atlanta was once known as the city of greenery, close-knit communities, and the hopeful development of the American South. But in less than a decade, many long-established neighborhoods, once the heart of community life, have turned into real estate investment projects. Houses are being repainted. High-rise apartments are springing up. Rental prices are rising. And then many supermarkets disappeared. It is estimated that in just 4 years, from 2021 to 2025, more than 50 local grocery stores have closed in Atlanta, most of them in areas undergoing gentrification, as the grocery stores that had existed for decades, serving the local community at reasonable prices, could not withstand the pressure of rent doubling or tripling. What is the underlying cause? Perhaps it comes from the very boom in commercial real estate investment that has caused rental prices to rise faster than the average income. As small shops cannot compete with upscale restaurants, specialty coffee shops, and new brand chains catering to the newly arrived residents, as the food industry, which inherently has low profit margins, has been inadvertently sidelined, as losing the living space in the city that they once nurtured. The question arises not only for Atlanta, but for many other cities. Are we choosing beautiful homes or sacrificing nutritious meals for the entire community in a city that is called modern and progressive? Is it worth the price for an elderly person to have to walk more than 2 miles to buy vegetables? Have you ever witnessed your neighborhood change so quickly that familiar faces are gone? Old shops are no longer there, and the sense of belonging has disappeared. Please share your observations, as what you see might be something many others are trying to understand. But if Atlanta is a place where housing prices are skyrocketing, then Denver, Colorado is struggling with a different problem. Rising transportation costs are pushing food prices up nearly double, and residents are starting to choose between eating well and filling up their gas tanks. Don't miss the next part where we explore the city caught between mountains, prices, and a paradoxical reality. Denver, as the beautiful capital of Colorado, nestled among the majestic Rocky Mountains with its fresh climate, high quality of life, and peaceful pace. It was once dubbed the most livable place in the United States. But behind that beauty lies a truth that few pay attention to. As food prices in Denver are rising faster than in many other major cities, not due to a supply shortage, but because of transportation costs. The cost of transporting food to Denver has increased by 68% in just the past 3 years from the distribution centers. Food must cross mountain passes, traverse snowy winters, and face escalating fuel costs before reaching the local supermarket. As a result, a box of frozen vegetables can cost as much as fresh organic vegetables in a neighboring state. A regular gallon of milk has increased by nearly in just a few years. And the people, especially those living on fixed pensions, are starting to have to choose between fresh food and gas for commuting to work. The cause of this situation is not entirely due to nature, but partly due to the lack of an efficient local food distribution system. This city, despite being modern, still lacks many local procurement and distribution centers. Most of the food is transported from California, Texas, or the East, having to cover hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles to reach consumers. When fuel prices rise and weather conditions become severe, it is not the distribution chain that pays the price, but the people. And then a question that makes one stop and think, why does a modern city with a large airport, a subway, and a financial center let its people's meals depend on hundreds of miles of mountain roads? What does urban development mean if even a carton of milk is pushed out of reach just because of transportation costs? Have you ever felt the price of food rising without knowing why? Perhaps the reason lies not in the goods themselves, but in the journey the food has to undertake. Share your experiences. Perhaps your story is the hidden aspect that many people have never considered. But if Denver is a place where people face geographical barriers, then Detroit, Michigan is a place where people have left and grocery stores have no reason to stay. In the next part, we will go to a city that was once a symbol of American industry, but has now become a food desert in the midst of an abandoned urban landscape. Detroit used to be the pride of America, the center of automobile manufacturing, where the sound of engines echoed throughout the 20th century. But after waves of bankruptcies, divestments and restructurings, what remains is a forgotten city, and not only companies, factories or residents left, but even grocery stores gradually disappeared. According to a report from the Detroit Food Policy Council, nearly 70% of Detroit residents currently do not have any grocery stores within walking distance. That means hundreds of thousands of people, mostly the elderly, people of color, and low-income families, are living in a food desert in the heart of the city. So what happened? After the wave of bankruptcies in 2013, many businesses withdrew from Detroit. Major supermarket chains see this area as a high-risk investment zone due to crime rates, low income, and high insurance costs. When the stores close, no one replaces them. No new investments, no cooperatives, no local initiatives are strong enough to withstand the capital outflow. The community has been left behind, not only by the economy, but also by the very food distribution system. There are streets where the Food Mart sign still hangs, but the doors are locked, the windows are broken, and dust covers everything. It's not just a pile of rubble. It's the forgotten memory of a once vibrant city, and then a question arose like an echo from the past. What remains of a city when food no longer stays with its people? When bread becomes more luxurious than gasoline? When vegetables cannot enter the kitchens of the people? Is it still a living city or just an empty shell? But the story is not over yet. In Miami, Florida, not factories, but nature is making food expensive and precarious. Don't take your eyes off it. The final part will make you reconsider the future of the entire American grocery system. Miami, the city of sunshine, tourism, and endless beaches. But it is also here that the sea levels are rising, storms are arriving earlier, and each flood brings with it a consequence that few notice: food disappearing. During the storms Ian and Adalia, the food supply chains in Miami were significantly disrupted. Hundreds of warehouses were flooded. The transportation routes are blocked. Delivery trucks cannot access the central supermarkets. It is estimated that for each major hurricane in Florida can cause direct damage of up to 150 million USD in the food industry, just considering inventory loss and operational disruption. And who is affected the most? Not the insurance companies, not the big retail chains, but rather the people who depend on daily meals purchased, especially the elderly, those living alone, and low-income individuals. After each natural disaster, food prices in Miami increased by an average of 15 to 20%, especially for fresh items, meat, vegetables, and dairy. The refrigeration system was damaged. The storage facility is damaged. Transportation is disrupted. And the things that were once very basic suddenly became luxuries in a few days or a few weeks. The problem is climate change is no longer a possibility. It is happening. The frequency of heavy rain, tropical storms, and flooding in South Florida is increasing steadily each year. But the food system, from cultivation as transportation to distribution, continues to operate as if everything is stable. If every rainstorm can empty the supermarket, what have we prepared for the unstable future of the climate? We cannot stop nature, but can we build a food system that is not so easily affected? Have you ever experienced a storm where everything, even a loaf of bread, became as rare as gold? Tell the story not to instill fear, but so that those who have never experienced it can understand better. At this point, you will clearly see one thing. From bustling cities like New York to coastal cities like Miami, the grocery crisis is no longer just an issue for poor or remote areas. It is quietly infiltrating every corner of America, but with significant consequences. And if we don't recognize those signals right now, the next thing to disappear might not just be a meal, but the very cohesion of the entire community. Where do you live? Have you noticed your city changing? Are the old stores still there? Are food prices making you change your eating habits every week? Please share your thoughts, experiences, or stories in the comment section. If you think stories like this need to be heard more, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with family, friends, or anyone you think needs to see what is really happening. All the content in the video is built from various public sources, report data, and reflects reality from the press, research, and people's accounts. The purpose is to share information and create a discussion forum, not to draw political conclusions, nor to represent any organization or extremist viewpoints. Thank you for watching until the very last second.